Okay, so today's book is The Merlin Conspiracy. It's by Diana Wynne Jones, and if you're reading it, you'll notice that she's like from England, and sure enough, she is. Usually, you can kind of tell by the way they write, and they use a few different words. And typically, their stories are set in London, whereas anyone who was writing in the U.S. had some in like New York City or like some southern town, or you just kind of get to see these things once you read enough books. So basically, the world is like different Earths, kind of like there's different like versions of reality, I guess you could say, and you can travel between them. Um, so some have magic, some don't. Some have like different like religious hierarchies involved with magic and all this different stuff. Um, and their environments are different. For example, on one Earth, the sunlight is so strong that like it's not it's harmful to be out in it for even like a short period of time. So all these like communities live in these buildings and they're like different floors, and they usually don't even go out until night, so that way they don't have to worry about the sun. Um, so yeah. And so basically, Roddy is in the islands of Blessed. The king has to constantly like move around to keep the kingdom like healthy, and the Merlin is super important for like the different magical ceremonies and stuff. And there's also a few other people like Sybil. She's the earth magic person. Don't really know the right way to say that, but you know what? We're gonna go with it. And so the old Merlin has just died. So he's been replaced, and the one he's been replaced with is trying to like destroy the country with the help of Sybil and Sir James. So Sir James is kind of like a noble of like this community type thing. I don't know if that's exactly the right word to put it, but that's definitely an analogy. Um, so they kind of get all of the people to drink from this well in a typical like ceremony that would happen, but Sybil's like enhance the well water to make them like under her power, like they have to do what she says. So Roddy and Grundo don't actually drink this, so then they're the only ones who are able to find out about this conspiracy where they're trying to like take down the land. Um, so Roddy goes to this like dark path thing to like try to get help from somebody. It's semi normal. I mean, to just go, and she's like projecting herself onto this place to like get help from someone. And Nick comes by and they talk, and he's like, oh well, I'll take care of it later. And then he keeps going on his way, meeting Romanov, and Romanov is a super powerful guy, and that's where Nick meets Maxwell Hyde, who incidentally is Roddy's grandfather. That comes into play later. So Nick tells Maxwell about this conspiracy about Roddy and the Islands Blessed. He's like, well, the Merlin can't really do anything wrong. Like, there's places, like, not places, but there's, like, precautions in place that just can't happen. Like, it physically can't. So Nick's like, okay, whatever. But Maxwell takes him back to his version of London to teach Nick some rules of magic and, like, how to do it and all that stuff. And, so he's been living with them for a couple months now, I think. And one day, this random dude in black just comes and takes Maxwell. And of course, a couple minutes later, Roddy shows up with Grundo and these two twins called Izzy's. They're awful. They're truly terrible. Picture the worst child you know and like copy it so that there's two of them. And yeah, that's basically how the Izzies are. And they're constantly switching personalities, so no one knows which one's which. And that's why they're called the Izzies. So they show up and they're like, okay, so everybody's been taken. And they go to find Romanov. So traveling the universe again to find Romanov. And then he gets there, and it's like been 10 years for him, even though it's only been 3 weeks for Nick, who just saw him. And so it's really weird. It's like a it's like time travel-ish, but like not quite. And so yeah, and then Romanov comes and helps them, and they split up so that Izzy's and Romanov are off fighting this one person to get him to break his concentration so they can free Maxwell Hyde and the actual Merlin, because the Merlin who's in the Islands of Blessed is an imposter. There's a few other people that they're trying to save. And so they stay there, and then Grundo, Roddy, and Nick go to the Islands of Blessed to Stonehenge to try to raise the land. They originally were going to do it somewhere else, but then they were kind of like kidnapped in a way, so then they had to end up at Stonehenge, and it was both places worked. So Roddy and Sybil are both trying to raise the land, but for two different reasons. Roddy's version of the raising the land will like completely, I mean, they'll both rewrite the magic, but Roddy's will rewrite the magic in a good way, whereas Sybil would like turn it so that everything's like dark and not like balanced. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on. If you want to know more about it, read the book. But Roddy is able to raise the land first, and it's just really sweet. Everything's like rewritten, and Grundo's actually able to do magic now because basically he has magic dyslexia, so everything's like backwards. So he has trouble sometimes, and he also has actual dyslexia. So, and it's just now he can like work with it. Like something about the way the magic was rewritten has enabled him to like understand it better, I guess you could say. And so he actually is Romanov's son. That's super interesting. And so he goes back to live with him, and Nick kind of wants to go too, but like he holds off, and he ends up not going to. And Roddy ends up going to live with the Lady Governor, which is basically the girl version of the Merlin. I'm not entirely sure why there's two of them, but I guess balance everything has to be in even numbers. Yeah, so I forgot to mention this, but Roddy was always super protective of Grundo, and about 2/3 through the book, she finds out that it's because Grundo has like enchanted her to do this. Like, it's not of her own free will. And of course she's like completely torn apart because her whole life they've been friends. They've known each other for like ever. And now it's all of a sudden like, is he a good person? Like, is he someone that I want to associate myself with? All that stuff. And Nick is the one who is, I guess you could say, forced, encouraged. There's several different words you could use to go try and comfort her. And it's just very sweet because, like, of course Nick thinks she's pretty and everything, but he's kind of turned off by her personality. I'm not entirely sure why. But after this point, he's like starting to realize that he's going to have to be the one who's like comforting her and like gets to know her and everything. It's just really sweet. I don't know what it is about Nick. I just really like him as a character, and I really like the way he treats Roddy. It's almost like a sisterly thing, but it's not. I don't know how to describe it. You would have to read it to understand. And Roddy, oh my gosh, she's so uptight. Nick's like the complete opposite of her. I think that's why this author tried to introduce a little bit of something in between them. But also, so this is the second book in the series. I didn't realize that. And also, I think it's probably the last. Doesn't end well, I mean, it ties up, but it ties up to the fact that there should be another book, not that it's the end. So I don't really know what happened in the first book. I don't think it's the same characters because all of these characters were pretty well introduced at the beginning of this book. So I'm guessing that it's just some events leading up to it, maybe a different version of the story. I don't know, but I guess I'll find out when I try to read it. And I think that's all I have for you guys today. So have a great night. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Hope you have lots of food and family, and I will see you later.